And the winner of this year's most obvious headline is New Zealand now at risk of missing all its climate targets, Climate Commission warns. The reason that this headline from Wednesday should come as no shock is because, well, to be fair, it's the most recent in a long line of headlines that say pretty much the exact same thing. The Coalition doesn't really give a shit about climate change mitigation, particularly when it comes to emissions. They're like a kid in a public pool who pees in it because they think everyone else at the other end of the pool is doing the same thing, so it won't make a difference if they do it. But then they end up just in a puddle of their own pee. And we can see that evolve over the past 3 years by looking at the headlines. Last year in December, there was the Coalition rejecting the Commission's target recommendations. In July last year, they ignored the warnings from the Commission that their path would see them miss the net zero targets by 2050. And working towards that is actually built into a few of our FTAs. In 2024, the Coalition were told that they're going to miss the Paris Climate Accord targets, and their response was for two of the parties then to start making cultural war noises about leaving the Accords for made-up bullshit reasons, like using the worst-case scenario cost of doing absolutely nothing and saying that that is what it was costing us, admitting in a way that they planned to do nothing and now didn't want to pay the bill for their choice. How, even after they were just elected in 2023, the government made it clear they had no intention of giving a shit about climate targets. And there's other things that they've done along the way as well which show this, like when they decided to exclude our biggest producers of greenhouse gases in targets that the emissions trading scheme was to cover, and now admit that the cost of that scheme is ballooning because they refuse to deal with it, and they don't actually plan to. Or that they've rushed to repeal and replace legislation and frameworks like the RMA to pivot away from factoring in environmental concerns. And they even took away funding for Climate Emergency Relief Fund to help deal with the costs of damage caused by climate change, which includes increased intensity in weather events, like the flooding in Wairoa, Kaikoura, Waitaki this month, or Wellington in June, or Wellington, Manawatu, and Whanganui, and Cyclone Vaianui when that hit in April, or the storms in Northland in March, or the fatal floods and storms in Canterbury, the Waipa, and Otarahanga in February, or the massive storms in Tairāwhiti in the Bay of Plenty that they had in January that caused that tragic landslip that took the lives of 6 people at the base of Moao. A spot, by the way, that local MP and bed-leg beater who used the awkward phrase, "I always go into bat for the people of Tauranga" on a social media post recently, Sam Uffindale, is now demanding be reopened before engineers actually sign off on it as being safe to do so because people want to walk up the hill. This is the government that ignored a quarter of a century of data to reopen oil and gas exploration in empty fields and made sure fossil fuel industry players got in on fast-track consenting legislation. They canned clean car discounts, they unwound vehicle efficiency standards to bring in more polluting cars and gutted funding to climate change initiatives in every budget, while giving tobacco companies kickbacks and telling voters that road cones are the biggest problems we face. So that's why this is the least shocking headline of the year. But we can top it by making Coalition lose election for November 8, the next winner of the most obvious headline award. Hello there, Kia ora podcast listeners. This one is actually relatively short compared to some of the ones I've done recently. It's like just over 3 minutes, and that's not on purpose. That's just because I've actually been really busy and I knew whatever I was going to make today was going to be kind of short. I spent most of this morning writing up this week's newsletter, which is going through some of the candidates that were announced at New Zealand First Weekend Conference. And if you're a paid subscriber to the Substack, to the newsletter, then you'll get that on Friday. And if you want the free version of that, it'll come out on Sunday, and that will be linked in on the Facebook, Instagram, and chat sections of the YouTube page if you want to get links if you're not already following. But you can follow quite easily by jumping into the link in the description or bio and subscribing. But yeah, I wrote that up this morning, and that was really interesting because I went through the full list of candidates that they've released so far, and there's a few, and there's a lot which are just a few years ago, they would never have had a chance, but because now this party is in government and there seems to be a cohort of people who believe that New Zealand First is really specifically what they used to be, and there is definitely a cohort of people who believe that they have taken over, that there's a really interesting mix of candidates here, and they mostly all suck. There's at least 3, I think, local body connected candidates who have direct connections to Voices for Freedom that are running this year. There are a number of councillors or people who have been involved in council in some way with AstroTurf Group connections. like Robbie Cookson from Waikato Regional Council. And he's a fascinating one. Like this one I found really funny because he's created the scorn of Jordan Williams from the Taxpayers Union because Robbie signed this stupid pledge saying we won't raise rates and then raised rates along with everybody else in his rates control team. And so now there's content out there from the TPU going, he's wrong. At least New Zealand First has integrity, not like Robbie. Just to give you an idea as to kind of weird complexity that's going on within this extreme sphere. But there are some really serious concerns that we should have here, like the fact that what we are seeing in terms of content is very much, from that party in particular, what NZSIS has told us is the most dangerous stuff at the moment out there that could lead up to a terrorist attack, and it's about identity-based extremism. Not the specific type of identity-based, but identity-based in general is in there, and this fits all of that criteria. But also the way that the media represented it over the weekend, that's just been, that's really problematic as well. They didn't pick up on the white supremacist neo-Nazi dog whistles that were right there, that the neo-Nazis and white supremacists have. It's been on their content going, look what they're doing for us. So that's a real concern. So that's what I was doing this morning, which is why this video actually on climate change is really short. But I saw the headline this morning from Newsroom going, oh yeah, Climate Commission's been ignored again. And I thought, I've read this before. And that's what led to this. So yeah, I hope you learned something from it. I also hope that it acts as a bit of a reminder that even just this year, we've had 11 states of emergency declared around the country to do with climate. And NIWA has said for years, like there's a little NIWA thing that pops up in this episode. That's from, I think, 2021 or 2020, which says that, the research then was showing that we're getting 5 times more extreme weather already. And it's just getting worse and worse as we go along, but we're in the middle of it, so we don't always see exactly how bad it's getting. Like we don't know the nuance, we just know that there's more storms, or that there's stronger winds, or that the heat is lasting longer, or that the droughts are happening more often. We pick up on different elements of it, but the data shows that this is consistent and that it is directly connected to man-made climate change. So this is a really important topic that we need to be aware of, especially going into the election. And yes, there is a valid argument of we're just a small country, it's not going to make a huge difference to the world. But if we do nothing, then we are complicit in what comes next. And that's something that we should all be really concerned with. We need to make an effort and encourage others to make an effort, because that's the only way that we're going to see long-term change. But this government, as you know, they don't give a shit. Not about that kind of stuff. So yeah, that is an insight for you into why it has been so crazy busy for me today, why this video is so short, and hopefully what you get out of it, and something to look forward to, or not, depending on how you feel, I guess, over the weekend with the upcoming newsletter around the New Zealand First Conference. So yeah, that's that. I might also be kind of quiet this weekend. My parents are coming to visit for a couple of nights. We're going to the food show, and my sister wants to go to Costco on Monday because she's never been. So we'll see how that goes. So look after yourself. I'll make sure there's content, don't worry. Look after yourselves. Ka kite anō. Live long, prosper, be one with the force, and I will catch you guys all soon.